After 5 years on the East Coast, it was time to go home.
San Andreas, for a lot of people, is the best GTA game ever made. Just 2 years after the release of Vice City, San Andreas comes along with this massive map, a huge story, and tons of new gameplay features, such as the ability to swim and dive underwater, a new clothing system, a new and easier to control camera, stats that influence how well the player shoots weapons, drives vehicles and flies aircraft, plus much more. However, with only 2 years to develop such an ambitious game, there's bound to be issues. Sure, San Andreas in 2004 was possibly the best open world game ever, and to some, it still is. But years later, after tons of analysis by fans and the game being played on modern hardware, issues do become apparent. Welcome to the second episode of the San Andreas Mod Showroom, and today we're going to take a look at Soylent Patch. Soylent Patch is an unofficial patch made by Soylent. However, in 2021, this patch is basically necessary to play San Andreas. The patch is exclusively engine and game script related fixes, so it won't fix things like map bugs or bugs with vehicle models. The patch fixes a huge number of issues with the game, and you can view the full list at Soylent's blog. However, let's take a look at some of the notable fixes included, such as the game now locks at 30 FPS instead of 25 FPS with the frame limiter on. The mouse should no longer lock up on newer systems. 16:9 resolutions are now available like 1.01. Anti-aliasing behaviour has now been altered and allows you to go up to 16 times MSAA depending on your graphics card. Mirror reflections no longer break when using anti-aliasing anymore. The EAX and Nvidia splash screens when you launch the game have been removed. Helicopter rotors and plane propellers now blur correctly like they did in Vice City and the PS2 version of San Andreas. Just a note, the Maverick and Skimmer isn't included in this fix initially, because on PC the rotor textures are corrupt. But I'll show you how to fix that once we install the mod. The moon now has several phases such as full moon, half moon and quarter moon like the PS2 version. The muzzle flash has been improved when firing weapons. Wet roads now reflect lights properly. Light shadows from fire now shows up properly. Weapons are now visible when viewed through a vehicle window. You can change the subtitle and radio text sizes to be like the Steam version. The sun glare from the sun now matches the PS2 version. Weapons and the jetpack now cast shadows when playing on high/very high visual settings. The fire truck now has a functional ladder which can be raised by pressing numpad 2 or by pushing the right analog stick down if using a controller. Coronas now properly rotate when the camera gets closer to them like on PS2. Vertical mouse sensitivity now matches horizontal mouse sensitivity. And so much more. Again, if you want to see the full list of fixes, check out Soylent's blog, which I'll link in the description. So, installation. If you followed my beginner's guide to modding San Andreas, you'll already have this mod installed. If that's the case, you can skip to the rotor fix chapter. If you haven't followed my beginner's guide and have never installed mods before, I'd recommend going back and watching that guide before continuing. Once you've done that, you can also skip to the rotor fix chapter. If you know how to install mods and didn't need my guide, this should be an easy install. Just a quick note before we install though, Soylent Patch is also compatible with the Steam and Rockstar Games launcher versions of San Andreas. However, not all of the fixes will work on those versions, so I'm using 1.0 and I'd recommend you do too. So step 1. Download Soylent Patch from the link in the description. Step 2. Open your mod loader folder and create a new folder called Soylent Patch. Step 3. Go to your downloads folder and open the archive you just downloaded. Copy soylentpatch.sa.asi and soylentpatch.ini from the zip archive into the newly created Soylent Patch folder inside your mod loader folder. And that's Soylent Patch installed. However, I did mention earlier that the Maverick and Skimmer have corrupted rotor textures on PC, and they won't blur correctly with Soylent Patch. So let's fix that. Step 1. Download the fixed textures from the link in the description. Step 2. Go to your downloads folder and open the archive you just downloaded. copy maverick.txt and skimmer.txt into the Soylent Patch folder inside your modloader folder. Step 3. Open soylentpatch.sa.ini with a text editor, go down to rotor fix exceptions and remove the lines which contain 460 and 487. These are the IDs for the skimmer and maverick. Save the file when you're done. And that's it. The rotors on the maverick and skimmer now blur correctly with Soylent Patch. Keep in mind, if you install any mods which replace the maverick or skimmer's textures, the rotors could break again if they're not done right. If they do, just undo what you did here. Now let's take a look at the configuration file. Soylent Patch has various options and it's already well documented. Let's take a look at it anyway and I'll go over what each option does and give you my recommended settings. Enabled script fixes. This enables or disables fixes related to the game script, such as the gym glitch where CJ can no longer use the gym, the basketball glitch, and 2 fixes for the player freezing in the mission Sweets Girl and Mountain Cloud Boys. I'd recommend enabling this. The only reason you should ever disable this is if you're using a mod which changes the game's main script file. Skip intro splashes. This allows you to skip the EAX and the video splash screen when you launch the game. I'd recommend enabling this. There's no real reason you'd want to see them every time you launch the game. Small Steam texts. This enables or disables the smaller font for the radio text and subtitle text, which is seen in the Steam version. I'd recommend enabling this. Of course, it's all preference, but I think the smaller text looks better overall. Coloured zone names. This makes the text of the location names that appear on the bottom right of the screen change colour depending on what gang currently controls that location. I'd recommend disabling this. Personally, I think it looks quite silly. Sun size hack. This increases the sun size compared to the vanilla game to make it more in line with that of the PS2 sun size. I'd recommend enabling this if you're not using a weather mod. If you are, it's best to disable this. Directional from sun. This makes the light on dynamic objects such as NPCs and vehicles follow the sun's location, like in Vice City. I'd recommend enabling this. It's not perfect, but I think it looks better than the vanilla game. True invincibility. This makes it so police helicopters can't damage CJ when the infinite health cheat is enabled. I personally don't use cheats, so this makes no difference to me. However, if you do, I'd recommend enabling this. Units. This allows you to switch which measurement system the game uses, metric or imperial. I'd recommend leaving this at the default setting, which automatically picks which system is used in your region. Rotor fix exceptions. We've already altered this section since we installed the fixed Maverick and Skimmer textures. However, let's go over it properly to show you how to use it. This section allows you to exclude specific aircraft models from using the rotor blur fix. This is useful if a mod you're using doesn't have the correct rotor texture and it breaks with this fix. So for example, if we take this modded Maverick model which hasn't got the correct rotor texture, we can go to the GTA Mods wiki which has a vehicle list with their corresponding IDs. Find the Maverick and we see that the ID is 487. If you go back to the rotor fix exception section and put 487 just below the commented text, you'll see the rotors no longer have the rotor blur fix applied, which caused issues with this modded Maverick. This isn't always necessary, and this isn't the fault of Soylent Patch. Rockstar themselves had broken rotor textures on PC, and a lot of mods followed suit. Not all aircraft mods will have this issue, so it's a case by case basis. Double rear wheels. This section is specifically for SAMP. Soylent Patch fixes double rear wheels not appearing on vehicles like they should, and whether a vehicle has double rear wheels or not is defined in the handling CFG file. Obviously with SAMP you can't edit that file, so if you need to enable or disable the double rear wheels for specific vehicle models, you can't. That's what this section is for. Just like rotor fix exceptions, you can put vehicle IDs here to enable or disable whether they use double rear wheels. By default, the tanker has double rear wheels enabled. However, if we put the tanker's model ID, which is 514, underneath this section, followed by =0 to disable double rear wheels, they'll no longer show up on the tanker model. To force double rear wheels on a vehicle, put =space 1 after the model ID instead. Light beam fix exceptions. Silent Patch fixes a bug which caused backface culling to enable all over a vehicle whenever its headlights were on. This bug made it so you couldn't see glass from the inside of vehicles during the night time. However, this bug was actually used by some clever modders as a method of hiding certain parts of their custom vehicles during the day and making them only visible at night. So while Silent Patch fixes a bug with the game, it means one trick used by modders no longer works. However, just like the last two sections, with Light Beam Fix exceptions, you can add vehicle IDs here and it'll disable the backface culling fix on that specific vehicle. So for example, this modded cop car makes use of this bug by making the light bar invisible during the day and visible at night. However, with Silent Patch, it's invisible all the time because the backface culling bug no longer happens. If we put this vehicle's model ID, which is 596, underneath this section, the backface culling fix will no longer apply to that vehicle, which means the light bar will work again like before. LSRP mode servers. This is another SAMP specific section. Silent Patch fixes weapons not being visible through vehicle windows. However, for roleplay servers, this can be a problem. So if you're playing on a SAMP roleplay server, putting the IP of that server underneath this section will disable weapons being visible through vehicle windows. And that brings us to the end of Silent Patch. Again, this patch contains a huge number of fixes which I can't even show off because they're under the hood fixes. So be sure to check out Silent's blog to see the full list of changes. I'd also like to thank Silent for his hard work and patches that span across a range of games. Silent Patch was one of the best things to happen to the 3D era GTA games, and he continues to patch older and newer games in his free time. He also has a Patreon where you can support his work, so be sure to check it out. And that's it for the second mod showroom. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. If you want to get in touch or ask any questions, leave a comment down below or find me on Twitter. Thanks for watching.